All right. Ever since I was 13 years old, I distinctly remember going back and forth to Sierra Leone with my family. I remember the smiles, I remember the laughs, and I remember the hearts of the people. But unfortunately, I also remember the frequent dropped calls, the unsent text messages and emails, and the overall lack of communication to people who generally lived right down the street. But I soon began to realize that this was more than just a Sierra Leone problem. This was a West Africa problem. In the region, there are over 300 million citizens, and of those citizens, over 60% live in rural towns and villages that make telecommunications infrastructure very weak. My name is Floyd Jones, and this is my business partner, Andrew Kestler, and we created Connecting4Good to stop this technological divide and provide an infrastructure where people can succeed. We quickly began to realize that there are firms and organizations working every single day to stop technological problems that West Africa was facing. However, the fact remained that these clients and these organizations were not in West Africa. And because they're not in West Africa, the citizens are unconnected. Because the citizens are unconnected, the citizens are left behind. What we do, we identify these key firms and organizations that are solving these gaps, and we integrate them into the complex West African system that on their own would be very hard to navigate. Because we have deep connections, because we have access to direct distribution channels, and we have in-contract clients, we're able to distribute and resell their products as a value-added reseller so we can become a brand that's known and trusted in the region, as well as assure these companies accelerated path to growth. By accessing our direct clients and having them come through us, we provide extreme benefit for our end consumer. Our goal, by accessing our key activities and directly communicating with our direct clients, is to get smartphone penetration in West Africa, in Sierra Leone to be exact, where we'll start our phase 1 operations, from 8.2% to over 35% by the beginning of 2017.
So 35% sounds like a rather lofty goal. How do we go about getting there? In the United States alone, there are over 152 million smartphones that are not disposed of properly. With this statistic in mind, we're going to be following a recycle, refurbish, and reuse model. Around the world today, there are several companies following this model. By partnering these companies with our distributors on the ground, we are going to be able to reduce the price point from the current $150 to a $50 price point. By doing that, we're reducing the amount of consumers that are priced out of this transaction. But what is the use of having a smartphone if you aren't able to utilize it properly? Currently in Africa, 80% of the wireless coverage is 2G. At these speeds, a smartphone cannot be utilized to its maximum capabilities. Fortunately, we have the solution. By taking our partner, Welbeck Secure, who produces a router-like device that through a patented data packaging technology enables communication with the internet across the 2G spectrum, we're extending the access to internet. By supplementing the telecommunications services with these Welbeck devices, we are reducing the overall costs associated with supplying the internet, and we are allowing more consumers access. Each of these sophisticated towers costs $200,000 for the telecommunications firms to produce. By partnering with the Welbeck devices, we are extending the internet without the need for sophisticated towers.
So you understand that we're extending internet, and you understand that we're providing low-cost smartphones. But what is the for good portion of our company? Well, mobile applications right now in sub-Saharan Africa are currently on the rise. In phase 1 operations of our company, we plan on focusing on education, mobile banking, and public health, and bringing these firms that are creating these beneficial applications and uploading them on the smartphones we provide to the citizens. So, education, for example. In Tanzania, the mobile reader application was just started over 3 years ago. Within that span, it has quickly moved to Kenya, and there has been over 3.5 million users utilizing the application. We want to bring firms like the mobile reader application to West Africa to increase literacy levels. Mobile banking. Let's go to Kenya, for example. Safaricom, the largest telecom in the country, actually released the M-Pesa mobile app. Within the 6 years of development, M-Pesa, a mobile banking application, has been able to amass over $252 million in the mobile banking platform. And most recently, they signed a deal with the Commercial Bank of Africa to extend banking access to all citizens in Kenya. We want to be able to utilize companies like M-Pesa and bring them into the West African market and be able to offer more beneficial banking services to the citizens there. Public health. Everyone in the room is familiar with the recent Ebola scare that has hitting our globe right now. However, the global pandemic began in Liberia and quickly spread to Sierra Leone and Guinea. However, it also reached Nigeria, but because of telecommunications, Nigeria was able to isolate this problem in a very fast and efficient manner. They launched a massive government text message system that alerted the citizens, as well as utilized social media like Twitter and Facebook. And organizations like the WHO was able to utilize smartphone applications to let their public health workers know exactly where the problem was happening. They were able to isolate it, and within 4 weeks, Ebola was completely eradicated from Nigeria. However, the war against Ebola still wages on in Sierra Leone, Liberia, and Guinea. And we want to be able to bring firms that solve these issues into the region to assure that technological failures like this never happen again. But what's our secret sauce, you may ask? Why can we do this? Well, really, it's our speed to market. Because of our entrenched relationships, our direct distribution channels, and our contracts that are already in legal, we provide an unreplicable system that any other company that tries to come in right now couldn't do on their own. Let's take Welbeck, for example, our phase 1 partner. They have a proven technology that operates in over 48 countries, and they're making massive amounts of profit. However, the fact still remains that they're not in the West African region. We at C4G have the relationships to be able to make that happen in an efficient and beneficial way. And we already have office space. We're actually going to be located on Crewtown Road, the #1 road in Freetown, Sierra Leone, the capital. So who are we as a team, you may ask?
I'm Andrew Kestler. I'm a senior studying economics at the College of William & Mary. I conducted an extensive research study on mobile banking and how it influences growth in developing nations. I also have a background in telecommunications and technology because I've been able to learn from my father, who's a senior vice president at DuPont Fabros, which is a data center company.
And I'm Floyd Jones again. I'm a major in international affairs with a concentration in international development, and have also conducted extensive studies in sub-Saharan Africa on the practices and processes of international development. In addition, my father is an area entrepreneur in West Africa and has conducted business for over 40 years. Because of his connections and his relationships, we are able to grow on those and build something that will be beneficial to all the citizens in the area. But we're banking on more than just our family connections. We actually have a large team of advisors, including Ed Martinez, Rashawn Huff, and Rajan Trivedi, the Director of Business Communications at M-Change in Ghana.
C4G has 3 revenue streams. The first 2 are commission-based. We are going to be earning a commission off of every Welbeck device sold and every smartphone device sold. Our third is a traffic percentage. By putting these Welbeck devices on the ground, we are providing more access to the consumer. In turn, we are going to be generating more traffic for the telecommunications providers, and we are going to be taking a percentage of the revenue generated by this traffic. In 2015, we are going to be initiating our model in several cities throughout Sierra Leone. At the end of 2015, we expect to generate $1.1 million worth of revenue. In 2016, we are going to be moving our services into Ghana, and we see a huge jump in revenue because of the higher population in Ghana versus Sierra Leone. The population in Ghana is about 4 times that of Sierra Leone, and the base connectivity levels currently are also more than Sierra Leone. With the $35,000 from this competition, we are going to be covering the cost to our first deal. In the beginning of quarter 3, 2015, we are going to be closing our deal with Welbeck Secure. In order to do this, we need to cover travel expenses for Floyd and myself to and from Sierra Leone, and also the legal fees related to finalizing these deals.
So where are we now, you may ask? Well, just in 3 months of operation and pitching our program model, we've been able to be in contact with over 12 firms that are mobile application providers, in contact with over 2 smartphone providers, and have 1 contract in legal with our internet provider, Welbeck Secure. Again, we connect these firms and integrate them into the complicated West African system that would be otherwise hard for them to do, and we provide massive impact. So an analogy that we like to think of, these companies are like bodybuilders. They're already lifting the weight 90% of the way. They're operating in countries all over the world and showing that they're profitable. However, C4G is that last link to lift them the last 10%. Because we're emphasizing and bringing them into a new market, providing them new revenue streams and opportunities to gain profit, we're taking them to the next level to reach them over 100%, and we're doing 100% for the people as well. We want you to know that your investment today is more than an investment in just a concept or an idea. It's more than an investment in a team and our passion, but it's an investment in the people of West Africa that will leave a lasting mark for decades to come. Thank you, and we look forward to answering any questions you may have.
I run a telecom company in a developing nation in Brazil. I've never seen any carrier share its traffic revenue. Right. How, who, why? I've never seen it.
Right, so based on the fact that we're bringing in a technology that they don't have at this point and generating more traffic for them that they wouldn't have been able to achieve otherwise, we think that we're going to be able to strike a deal with them to take a portion of this revenue, because if not, then their revenue doesn't increase.
And this is the incumbent carrier?
Yes, actually we're in contact with Airtel, the #1 provider in the country, and in addition, they actually cover over 50% of the people in Sierra Leone. And because we don't have any official contracts right now, however, we're in soft conversations, that because of our network and because of our tool, it's going to almost work like the internet centers that work there right now. And they have like internet cafes, and this would be in a way for them to utilize the service. Also, because of our box, we have the technology to be able to tell how many people are utilizing our service, and it carries up to 500 people on a box. So because of that, it's not a percentage of the entire profit that they make, but a percentage on the percentage that they're going to be making from the new profit that we're bringing them.
And my second question is, who are you selling the Wellbeck boxes to? The carrier or to the municipality or town?
We're doing it directly to the telecom provider. And there's 4 major telecom providers in the region. We have access to 3 of them, so including the government-run telecom. So we want to let you know it's not just a nuanced idea.
Okay, thank you.
Can you talk about the performance of this device? I mean, it seems like a lot hinges on it. What do you know about it, and why would it work when you drop it in the fabric?
Right, so the boxes actually come in pairs. One is going to be in the field, and the other is going to be in a data center connected to the internet. The data packaging, the data packaging and the communication with the sister device actually allows for more efficient communication across the network. So that in turn is going to basically enable more efficiency and essentially speed. So that's where that result is coming from.
Do you have some simulation or some actual field data or something to prove that it would work?
They're actually using these devices in the Middle East. They're using it for a slightly different application. But based on talking with Bob Smith, the president and CEO of Wellbeck Secure, this device is going to work in our application.
So why is Wellbeck not in West Africa?
Well, for precisely the reason why a lot of these companies aren't in West Africa, because the development structure there, you have to very much know it. And because of my father and his entrenched relationships, and because he's run his own company for over 40 years conducting public-private partnerships, we understand how the market works. For example, many organizations do work there all the time. Like the World Bank, they actually just gave over $60 million to the government to conduct internet infrastructure. But with that $60 million, the government actually privatized telecommunications for themselves and started their own Department of Telecommunications. And unfortunately, the internet penetration still is at 1.3%. So the thing that they need is an intermediary facilitator to actually be the one intercessing with these companies and assuring that the product goes directly to the market. And because we're connected to Airtel, the #1 provider in the country, and have a direct relationship with them, we can assure that the product is going to be going to its fullest extent and not just stopping at the top. And at the end of the day, these companies, it's an arms race with these companies. They want to get as much revenue and get as much customers underneath their belt as possible. And with this technology, we have the capacity to be able to do that.
So without this, no one lose it, so your success doesn't take anything from anyone. It just is a missed opportunity for those that are there now.
Most definitely. Like we said, actually building a telecommunications tower costs over $200,000. And these companies don't want to go and build these towers in the rural towns and villages where the people aren't going to be able to afford their services. And because of this box, actually one box costs $500, and like he said, it comes in pairs, so $1,000 compared to over $200,000 is very impractical. And because of our smartphone model, we're trying to build a program where the development organizations actually pay for the first shipments, and then by our second phase, we'll be able to subsidize the phones for ourselves.
And politically, Sierra Leone is doing well these days.
There actually are. The president of Sierra Leone is actually in a meeting with President Obama this week.
So once you get past Sierra Leone, where it seems like you have lots of connections, you mentioned Ghana as sort of like the next big market and much larger than the current one. What kind of connections do you have then? I mean, it sounds like maybe you've got, and as you move through the rest of West Africa.
So we actually have office space because of our familiar relationships in Ghana as well, and that's why that makes the most sense for us to go to Ghana next. However, we also want to target Liberia and Guinea because we have softer relationships there, but those are where that's where the main Ebola outbreak happened, and so we want to make sure that we can target those areas and get on the ground there first, because at the end of the day, we are a social enterprise, and we want to make sure we're providing the best good for the people.
You mentioned that Wellbeck had patent protection, I think. Do you know if they specifically have it in those countries?
They're actually part of a company called IPTL, and they own the technology around the world.
So I'm not 100% sure if they're in the patent protections in there. However, we can follow up on that. We definitely will follow up on that. But also, in addition to the product that they have constructed is unbreakable and able to
Reverse engineer.
Reverse engineer, yeah.
So you're more of a service-oriented business rather than a product, any product.
Most definitely. And like we said at the end, we're really just doing the last 10%. And that's why we can do all these things. I think easily just saying it might seem like a lot, but the reason why we can do all of these different things is because we're just really doing the last 10%. We're carrying these companies over the hump to get them into the region effectively. And in addition, we're acting as an integrator to be able to oversee their processes and to make sure that they don't conflict with one another. If we see a company coming into the market, yes, they can probably make a lot of money, but if they're going to directly conflict with another company we have in the region, we're going to try and figure out a way that we can ease them into the process better to make sure for the most efficient gain for our end consumer. And in addition, it's also important to understand that our end consumer are very different than our direct clients. The end consumers are not going to be paying for these telecoms or anything like that. It's our direct clients that can do this work because they're already doing it around the world, and we're just offering that last push to bring them into the region.
What if the government isn't interested in having you do this? How would you get around that?
Well, something that we've actually been conducting a lot of studies on and consulting our advisors is the nonprofit side. And so another idea that we're flirting around with right now is having our LLC based in the States, but also having like a nonprofit sector based in potentially Sierra Leone. We kind of are focused on Sierra Leone, although we have a mindset of branching out into West Africa. We want to start our phase 1 operation specifically in Sierra Leone, and that's an idea that we're toying around with because my father and us already have relationships with nonprofits and other NGOs that are doing the work there to usher it in properly.
Last question?
You mentioned a 35% sort of bullet that you're looking at. Where along where you are now to that, do you start making money?
So we're actually going to be making money right off the bat. So at the end of Q2, when we strike our first deal, we're actually going to be profitable at that point.
All right, thank you.